case, let's go ahead and dive into now how to add music to these specific scenes or screens in your stream. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my stream starting soon here. By the way, this is one of the themes within Streamlabs OBS. If you haven't watched my Streamlabs OBS tutorial, I will link that down below as well. So let's go ahead here where you see sources, and I want to go ahead and click the little addition symbol here to add a new make sure that when the song is open.
Okay. There we go. Hello, everybody. As you can probably tell by the fact that it is 5:30 when I said that we were going to do this at 5, I had a few struggles, but I got through them as best as I could. So now I'm just going to get right into it. I have streamed before on Twitch, but I have never streamed before on YouTube, and it is insane how different it is, because you'd think that, considering that they're both streaming platforms, you'd think it'd be at least somewhat similar, but oh no, of course not. Hello, everybody. Again, I've probably said that like 3 times now at least. How is everybody doing? I have a very much needed glass of wine right here. I'm just gonna take a sip from. I also have a glass of water because you want to stay hydrated. And a cup of tea. So, I have all the drinks that anyone could want. Now, I just need to get started on what we're here for. So, if it wasn't clear from the title of this live stream, if you're here because you just happened to come across this, then welcome, first of all, to the Novelty Knitting channel, but also welcome to Frogging Night. So for the uninitiated, frogging is in knitting when you rip out something that you've created. So in this case for me, I'm starting with this Schnee cardigan that I have made significant progress in. I have used approximately, I would say, 2.5 full skeins of yarn. Maybe not 2.5, maybe just 2. And I decided that I didn't like the texture of this fabric. So there you go. Knitting, always a fun exercise in patience. So the reason that is called frogging is because as you rip it, which sounds a bit like ribbit. So knitters are nothing if not creative. And in that creativity, I am going to have to decide how exactly I want to do this, because I can rip this out so the cows come home. It's not going to do me much good if it's just a pile of yarn barf. So I can cut it, or I probably will just cut it. Oh, I'm going to have so many ends to weave in now. I also am just a complete mess when it comes to my organization, because it was so much more difficult to get this stream started than I expected. Hi, Taylor! Oh my gosh, thank you for coming. It's probably you and then, like, my other two, like, there's not that many people. Oh, hi, Tana! There we go. Yep, it's probably just all people that I know personally in the chat right now, but I will take that. Thank you guys so much for coming. I will, if there's nothing being said in chat, I have to riff, which is not a pretty sight, so I highly recommend you guys go ahead and comment in the description. Neither of those make sense, because first of all, you don't comment in the description down below, even in YouTube videos, but then also, especially in live streams, you do not comment. You, what is it, I guess? You just say something in the chat, comment in the chat? I suppose it's comment in the chat, that's not too bad. So I do have a ball winder, which I considered using for this, but I don't really have a good way to set it up and do the stream. Unless I tilt the camera just a little bit, maybe I'll do that. Oh, so prepared! I'm so prepared, guys! That's not even the right... There we go. So this week has been interesting for me and my husband. I started out the week getting, well, okay, let me start that over again. Started out the week thinking that I was going to be going to Ford Field, all the way to Ford Field, which for me is an hour and a half. This is a very precarious thing. I'm going to focus while I do that for a second. Going to Ford Field for my COVID vaccine, and then I realized that the MSU Pavilion, which is much closer to where I live, they had some appointments available, and so I took up one of those, and I ended up getting that on Tuesday instead of going in for my shot on Monday. So I got my COVID vaccine on Tuesday, my second one. Taylor says, here until the baby wakes up. Oh, thank you. Your baby, I know that I've said this already, but is genuinely the most beautiful creature I've ever seen in my entire life. She is just the sweetest, cutest, most perfect little angel that I've ever seen. We'll see what I think when I hear her cry for the first time. Alright, now I have to adjust the camera because I didn't think about this in advance. I basically set it up as if it was like, it's just a kind of zoomed out version of my podcast, because I wasn't really sure what I was going to need until I actually got started, so there we go. And now I'm just going to hopefully sit here. Oh, that's the wrong side. Let's pull on the right side. Correct side. Left side, right side. Who knows? Can everybody hear me okay? Like, if I step over here, does the audio get too blurry? Blurry. As if audio can get blurry. Oh, man. See, this is what happens when you guys let me riff. Hello, Shelby McDaniel. Taylor, your baby never cries? That is, like, that is incredible. You know that you're very lucky. Or at least I suppose you're very lucky. I assume you're very lucky because I've never had a baby, obviously. There we go. Gonna try and point this at me at least a little bit. Maybe heard her a total of 5 minutes of crying and she's 2.5 weeks old. Wow, that's, well, this is not ideal. I'm gonna try and stand on this side. You guys getting like a tour basically of my yarn shelf because I have to keep opening up all these boxes. Is this gonna work okay? It's gonna work okay. Should probably have this in a position so that it can actually be pulled out quite easily. Guys, this is gonna be okay. Let's see. It's hard for me to read the chat from here because I need glasses. So I'm gonna just use my phone here. Audio is fine. Thank you, Taylor. Loud and clear, no problem hearing you. Thank you, Shelby. I'm hoping that this will end up being easier than I anticipate. I know that there is also a way that you can, I've seen people do this where they, like, put it, as they unwind it, they put it over, like, steam, boiling water or steam or whatever, so that they can, like, straighten out the fibers as it goes. I don't know if that's, like, necessary. I have never done it before when I've been doing this, so I don't know. I'm gonna just leave it. This will at least be easier than some of my other like some of the other things that I need to take out are, they're finished. So all of the ends have been woven in and everything like that, so there's gonna be a lot more scissors involved with the next bit of this. But because this is, like, it's knit in pieces, but it's not knit in pieces. It's not knit in pieces at all. Because it's knit in the round, and it's not knit in the round either. See, guys, this is what happens when I have to vamp. Okay. Apparently I need the wine not to help me get through the frogging process, but to help me get through the live stream process. Look at that. Can you guys see that? No, you can't. Oh, I have to tilt the camera down because I don't think one of these. I feel like this is a fairly typical what you would expect from, like, a knitting live stream. Because this is just, like, pulling out like butter, which I don't know why I expected any less, because I didn't, like, this is all just one skein, or, well, it's two skeins, obviously, because there's two pieces of yarn here, but it's all just in one go, so let's see. Just steam the cake when you're in the shower. That's what Taylor says. Okay, I can definitely do that. So it's not necessary to do it until after you've already finished it. I've never actually done that when I've pulled things out before, but then usually when I'm pulling things out, I'm putting it right back into the same project. Like, I'm not usually waiting any amount of time. Not that I shouldn't be steaming it. either way, but although with the no frills sweater, that one I definitely pulled out and waited a very long time. So that one, just in general, I just never I never did the things that I was supposed to with that. We're gonna get through this sleeve, and then I think the harder bit will definitely be like the body of it, because there was a lot more cutting, breaking the yarn, and all of that jazz. So almost done with the sleeve. Man, this live stream is not gonna be very long if the other ones end up being this easy. And I even just tied that together in a little bow. See, no ends woven in. This is perfect. And then look at all this yarn. That is what we're saving? Question mark? Maybe? Oh. Okay, so you can sit over here. By the way, I finished my swatches, as you might have seen in my last episode, and this one's the 8 and this one's the 9, and I decided that I am definitely going with the 9, so I will probably cast this on just as soon as I've finished steaming the remains after I take them out. Let's see now, where next? I think next I need to, yeah, because I started doing the body, so I need to do that next. Alright. And I'm gonna adjust the camera again. I need a cameraman. I need my husband to be in here to do this for me. That's what he's good for, right? You can see my little sheep up here. Okay. Oops. See, can I use the ball winder correctly? I really ought to just move it over a bit, shouldn't I? Because that would make my life a whole lot easier. Can you see it if I move it over? Yes. There we go. Yes, the tailor says the fabric looks so dense, no wonder it ate yarn. And yes, the fact that the fabric is dense is also the reason that I'm pulling it out in the first place. This is supposed to technically be a DK weight yarn because it's fingering weight held together, which is usually what makes a DK weight. Yes, now it's getting a bit more complicated. Okay, need to make myself some more space. But I am not entirely convinced that I didn't make just a worsted weight yarn, which is fine. It just means that I need a bigger needle size. Especially since I'm planning on, like, I like my things oversized, but it doesn't lend itself well to the density of the fabric when you have a really thick yarn and a really small needle size. I found that out the very first time I tried to make some washcloths. I was using like your typical like Meyer brand like cotton, just like the dishy stuff that you can get at like Joann's or any kind of department store basically. And I was frustrated because the washcloths that we had that other people had made for us were like, they'd pull apart a lot. Like, there were lots of holes in them, which I didn't like. I didn't think that that was very useful when it came to cleaning the dishes and things. So I decided that I was going to knit a bunch of washcloths, but I was going to knit them on needles that were significantly smaller than was recommended. Which, as you can imagine, didn't go great. I ended up being extremely frustrated with, because I was using like some minor patterning, just like some free washcloth patterns, dishcloth patterns on Ravelry. I cannot tell if I'm having trouble with it just because I came to like kind of a weird bit, or I think, nope, I think that I wove in an end here. Why would you do that, Emma? You know better than that. I almost never weave in my ends, especially with like a garment. In particular a garment, because I'm so picky about my clothes. I almost never weave in the ends of my garments until after I have finished it and tried it on, because I learned during my while I was knitting the no frills sweater that I really do not like to have to undo the ends. Okay, so no, I didn't weave in an end there? What is going on? Oh, I know what happened here. Oh, piss. Okay. I will try not to swear during this stream, but I make absolutely no promises. So, what happened is that there was a point where I got to where I didn't like how it was pooling, and so I just, like, pulled the yarn, and I was planning on breaking the yarn, and so that I would know where that was, so that I could settle it in this, and I forgot to do that beforehand. Here we go. And now I'm just gonna do a little magic knot. Goodbye, Taylor. Good luck with your baby. Give her a little hug for me. Love you guys. I did that wrong. Magic knots are not difficult to do unless you're trying to concentrate on something else. I do them all the time in my magic cakes for my scrappy blanket. I'm gonna get this knot out, guys. I'll be with you in just a second. Apparently more than just a second. Okay, you know what? The knot can stay. I don't even care. Let's see if I can get this sorted out. See, this is more of what I expected. I expected weird shenanigans that I pulled on myself to make this as difficult as possible. I never did double check that my audio and my video were synced up, so I hope that that's fine, guys. I can tell you what I always do whenever I'm doing my recording. I go 2,222 because the T's are really good ways to get yourself, like, to figure out where you're, to make to make sure that your audio and your video are synced, because the T's make such an obvious shape on our lips. Alright, for right now I'm just gonna regular knot it, and I will deal with that when I come to it, because I love to cause trouble for future Emma, It's so entertaining. Okay. There we go. The trouble is just kind of keeping this flat enough so that it doesn't get, like, it doesn't stick on anything. Otherwise, it's really easy. That and trying to keep myself and the knitting in frame. I was really worried when it came to the sound because the neighbors have been having a tree taken down, and I swear they've been doing it for the entire day, and just when I was about to go live, when I planned on trying to go live, so about 15 minutes before I actually went live, they were starting to use chainsaws for the first time, and they've been there since like 10 this morning, so that was annoying. Let's see. All synced up. Thank you, Kayla, and thank you for coming. And now we're probably at a part where I will woven some ends. It looks like we've gotten to the top of the, yeah. So this is going to be the first panel that I have to take out. What did I do here? Okay. Or, oh no, that's not what happened. It looks like that was the first full skein that I finished off. Okay, so again, gonna leave this as a problem for future Emma, and I'm just going to knot it. Let's see. I would have woven these ends in eventually. See, this would be significantly easier. Oh no, guys, I see what the culprit is. It's not where I split the yarn, it's where my cat got to it. So if I have a tendency to kind of leave my projects laying around, even though I have perfectly good bags to store them in, but my cat, if she sees any wool laying around, she will bite it in half. She doesn't really eat any of it. She just bites it in half and then leaves. And like, I guess I should be grateful that she doesn't eat it, because that could cause problems for her stomach. But I tell you what, it is a huge annoyance. And she doesn't do it, she knows her yarn. She never does it with acrylic. She only ever does it with wool yarn. Oh, now you can maybe hear the neighbors. Yep, that's a wood chipper. They're getting the neighbors are getting their ash tree taken out, or not all of it, but like they're getting it trimmed. And so if you hear a lot of background noise, that would be the tree trimmers. Oh no, I didn't do it quite right. Okay, we're gonna just hold this very loosely. There we go. I didn't have them quite lined up right. It was gonna be a big pain in the butt, but then it wasn't. So I started telling you guys about the I got my COVID shot on Tuesday, and then I had a really laid back Wednesday because I was expecting to have, all the terrible symptoms, because my family, both my mom and my brother and my dad, every member of my immediate family, ended up with a fever after their second dose of the COVID vaccine. And so I was anticipating having a fever, being miserable, body aches, all that jazz, because my whole family had it. But I took a tip from Kayla in the chat. Thank you, Kayla. I drank a ton of water on the day that I got my vaccine, and part of that was because I was genuinely just thirsty all day long. I was like, felt like I was dying of thirst half the day, even though I was drinking. I must have drank twice as much water as I typically do. But I credit that with the reason that I didn't have any adverse effects from the the second COVID vaccine. So thank you again, Kayla. This is where I actually ended one skein and started another. So I'm just gonna tie that together. Problems for future Emma. And probably what I'll end up doing, what future Emma will end up doing is undoing those knots and then just doing a magic knot. I have to say though, keep getting on tangents, guys. This is what happens when you have to talk to yourself for an extended period of time. I always feel a little bit hesitant about the magic knots. Like, I know that they're supposed to be, like, magic, basically, and so, like, you don't have to weave in your ends, you do the knots and then you cut it and you're good, but I'm always so nervous that the knots are going to come undone no matter how tightly I tie them, and so I'm going to have to make a choice soon with my scrappy blanket, where I decide, oh my goodness, where I decide whether or not I'm going to just cut all those ends off, or if I'm going to weave them in. If I weave them in, it's going to be a whole thing, because that's a lot. I can show you guys, actually, because I've got it right here. But first, I'm going to get whatever is happening to my knitting right now. I'm going to get it undone. There we go. Okay. Why do I have so many cuts in the yarn all of a sudden? Future Emma's gonna hate me. Can you guys hear music? I put music in the background. It's just like, it's video game music. It's from Yoshi's Woolly World. But I can't hear it, because if I plug headphones in, that's what I was doing, by the way. I was trying to figure out how to play music during the stream. If I plug headphones into the laptop, you can't hear the audio on the stream any longer from the video game music. Let's see. Tana, I don't trust magic knots. I have zero rationale for that. I just can't do it. I completely understand. I'm with you. Like, I want to trust them because they're so useful, especially when it comes to the scrappy blanket. But I just can't bring myself to cut off those ends just yet. But yeah, so with the music, I was trying to get that sorted out before I started. And if I plugged my headphones in, then I couldn't hear it. But if I leave it going just on my desktop, on my laptop, then you can pick it up with the mic, and then it's gonna like duplicate it, and it'll have like a weird echo. So I didn't want that either. There was a moment there where I was looking up a tutorial and I completely blanked on the fact that if you could hear the music coming through my computer, you could probably hear the tutorial audio as well. So that was a thing. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to figure that out for future streams, because I like to have a little bit of audio in the background, just a little bit of music. And apparently a wood chipper. Thanks, guys. You couldn't have finished this, when you were here at 10:30? So disrespectful. Let's see. Let's see if I can remember back to any of my other tangents. Maybe we'll start with a drink of wine. Tangent. Here's a tangent. The magic knots in my blanket are numerous. It's a kind way of putting it. You can see it way more here, like at the closer to the top, because I think I did get to a point somewhere along the bottom where I was just like, I'm just gonna go for it, and so I cut them all off. But now it's like anytime you see a color change, that is 2 ends that I have to weave in if I decide to do that, or I have to just take the leap and cut them off. I think there's a very specific reason that I do not trust Magic Loop, and it's, or not Magic Loop, that I do not trust magic knots, and it's because I have had it where I cut off the ends, and then if I like tugged on it, and this is like makes sense, so I cut off the knots and then I tugged on it a little bit too hard just to see if it would like come apart, and it did. And of course it did, because you're not going to be like tugging on those individual strands necessarily when you are once you have a finished garment or a finished object in general, but it just makes it very difficult to commit to cutting off all of these ends. But I tell you what, there's like 50 already, and I'm not even finished with this. So that would be a project unto itself. That would be reason to do another stream, guys. So tell me what you think. Do I just cut them all off and like pray that they are fine, or do I weave in all those ends? Let's see. We've got some comments. Can hear the music. Never use my winder when frogging. That's genius. Thank you, Kayla. It definitely makes it a bit easier if you can do it, because I tried to use the winder when I was frogging my oh, apparently I am on, oh yeah, look, that's separated. I'm on the front panel. When I was trying to frog my no frills sweater the very first time, and I had all that mohair and the helical knitting. I had mohair in it, I was doing it helical knitting, and it was absolutely impossible to just pull it out like this. Like, this is hard enough with the 2 strands of yarn going at once, but it was literally impossible when it came to the no frills sweater with the mohair and all that. It was just a nightmare, because I would pull out a little bit of it and like it would instantly like just bunch up, because the mohair likes to stick to itself quite a lot, and between that and like the twisting stitches where are the slip stitches where I was doing the helical part of it, like it was the worst. I ended up, oh, there we go. It's a nice clean end, so I think I will take that out right there. So I've got a nice, beautiful, that is a big cake. That, if that were cake, that would be, you know, something you shared. But yeah, with the helical knitting and the mohair, it was too much. I ended up having to I would spend an evening doing it, and by the end of the evening, this was when my anxiety was really bad, but by the end of the evening, I would end up having to stop because I was having a panic attack because of the insanity of trying to undo the helical knitting and the mohair, and trying to save both of them. So the mohair ended up being sacrificed in this situation because I just could not do it. Starting one of these when you're pulling something out is the hardest part, or starting one of the cakes on the winder, because the tug from this is much tighter than when you're pulling off of a Swift. There's the wood chipper again. when you're pulling off of a Swift, it's like very loose and you like keep tension with like a hand like this. But the sweater itself seems to be keeping a bit of tension, and that's not ideal. At least for starting out, just because it has the tendency to like just pull on itself and slip right off through the ball winder. That might partially be because I have this plastic one and not like a wooden one or something. But this ball winder, it's from Knit Picks, and it has been very good to me over the years. I got this along with my Swift, which you can see up here. It's very unwieldy. I never know where to keep it. So I just kind of shove it up there, and I have on numerous occasions gotten it stuck on things, like especially my knitting. All these like the wing nuts and the edges of my Swift, they catch yarn like nobody's business. And so you do not use a Swift while wearing a knit, because that is just asking for trouble. Was I in the middle of a statement? I can't remember. I think I was maybe talking about the no frills. But yeah, this one's a very tiny. This one's cupcake sized. There you go, cupcake. Now I just need some frosting. What would be the equivalent of frosting for knitting? Would it be like, I don't know. I suppose baby mohair would be good frosting. There's this bakery that's in downtown I don't know if it's on like the edge of Lansing, East Lansing. It's near Fran Door, called Bacon Cakes, and it is like heaven. It is seriously one of the most amazing bakeries that I've ever been to. I absolutely love it. My husband and I go there every once in a while, more often than we probably should, for cupcakes, and I highly recommend. They have a Kahlua cupcake that is my absolute favorite, because it's a chocolate cupcake with like a Kahlua cream in the middle and a Kahlua frosting on top, and then like these little chocolate decorations they're solid chocolate, but they're shaped like coffee beans. And I don't think that it tastes like coffee. It just tastes like, sweet cream, basically. But it is so rich and so delicious. My husband and I have decided that every time we go, we always end up getting 4 cupcakes. We get one, which we know is our favorite. So far, my favorite is the Kahlua one. And then we get one to try. The last one that I tried was a lemon cupcake, and that was so good. That one definitely made my top 3 cupcakes. At some point, my husband has to leave for baseball practice. He's on a vintage baseball team, and so he will be leaving, and the dogs will need to come in. So I will probably I will put up like a "be back later" sign, because they will be nuts to see me, especially Elena, our little puppy. She will jump on me and go a little bit crazy, and I'm gonna need to make sure she doesn't knock anything over. So that will just take me a couple of minutes to deal with them. But he shouldn't be leaving just yet. Because if we try to leave her, so right now we're on the second floor in our house, and she is downstairs, and there we have a gate up so that she can't come up the stairs. But the second Michael leaves, she will start barking and whining like someone has stabbed her, basically, because she is so upset that we have left her. In her eyes, that we've left her. It was bad enough that we had to leave today for several hours. suppose that's a tangent that I can go back to. I was talking about what is going on, or what has been going on this week, and I got my second shot, and Michael got his second vaccine today, which we drove to Grand Rapids for, and that was fine. It was not a big deal. But yesterday we went to the vet because our cat Molly has been acting really strange. She's been, she is usually food obsessed. She will start meowing 2 hours before dinner time to remind us that we need to feed her. She will wake Michael up if we don't feed her at her usual time usually. And she is never far from her food dish. Like, if you make even the slightest hint, okay, I guess this is going to be on the floor now. If you make even the slightest hint that you're going to the kitchen for pet food, then she is all up in your business. And she has not been like that lately. She has been like, we've had to kind of really coax her into eating, which is just insane for her. And then yesterday morning I was, hello, all right, we've got those dogs.
Cosima.
Oh, hi.
Oh, she missed you.
Oh, yes. Are you heading out?
I am heading out.
Okay. Be safe.
I will. I will do my best to not die at baseball practice.
Yes, thank you. Okay. I'm going to be a good girl. If I put you down, will you jump up and try and get back to me? Or will you behave? Okay. Looks like she's gonna behave. That's unlike her. But yeah, so yesterday I got up and I fed the cats for once, which is not usually how it goes. Usually Michael's up before me. But yesterday he wasn't feeling well, so he stayed in, or he slept in, and then I could not for the life of me find Molly, and I was like running around the house trying to find this cat, panic slowly rising inside of me, until I finally found her, and she was under the desk in this room, which is, like, she has never gone there before. And I had noticed that, like, all this week she's kind of been hiding herself away, trying to just, like, be in, like, secluded places where it's, like, cool and dark, and where she's kind of away from us. And so I was like, I'm not taking any chances. And so I called the vet, and we got in early yesterday morning at about 10. Jump up then. Come on then. Good girl. Come here. More kisses. You're so good girl. Mwah. Oh, and Dad's leaving, so now we gotta go check that out. But yeah, so she went to the vet at 10 yesterday. We ended up being there for almost 3 hours while they did x-rays and blood work and tried to figure out what was wrong with her. And I had all these things written down about, like, the changes that we've been going through lately. Like, we moved around our living room, like, a couple weeks ago, and it's just a lot more open now, and like all these little things, anything that could possibly be a reason for her to be acting weird. And the vet could not find anything wrong with her, which, I mean, that's good. But she gave us an appetite stimulant for Molly, and told us she gave us an appetant. An appetite stimulant for her, and then told us to, like, keep her sequestered in a room so we could tell exactly how much she's eating. Because we have another cat, and if sometimes, like, they eat each other's food, so it's really hard to keep track of who's eating what. So we have her sequestered in another room. We're just keeping track of her eating habit, how much she's eating, and hopefully we'll have an explanation for her behavior soon. I will say that when it comes to all these pets, I have I've dealt with a heck of a lot more poop than I ever anticipated, because that's one of the things that we're doing with Molly, is that we're having to, like, keep track of whether or not she's gone to the bathroom. So that's fun. And when this one was a puppy, she saw no reason why she couldn't go to the bathroom wherever she wanted. And we're still dealing with that. We're still trying to get her out of the habit of that. In some cases, she's much, much, much better than when she was a puppy, but she's not great. Her birthday is actually on May 9th, on Mother's Day. What is everybody doing this weekend? Does anybody have any special Mother's Day things? I know we're still in the weird place with the pandemic where, like, it doesn't necessarily feel safe to go and see your loved ones, but, like, if they're vaccinated and you're vaccinated, then it's probably fine. You need to not do that. You know what I want for Mother's Day? I want to have a full day where you don't bark at all. Can you do that? There's no way she can do that. Michael and I will be going up to Bay City, hopefully, depending on how he feels tomorrow. Because if he has a fever tomorrow, we're not driving all the way up to Bay City to go and visit his mother. We would be going, we would probably just go at a different time. So that's on Saturday, and then my family is fully vaccinated. Please don't. Jump up. Come on. Good girl. My family is fully vaccinated, so we will go and see them on Sunday. But yeah. Let's see. Emma Love says, we are still in lockdown where I live, so I'll likely give her a call. That's very sweet. That's good. We'll definitely do that with my husband's mom. If we can't go and see her, we'll definitely give her a call. But I definitely hope that we're able to go and see her. Lockdown has been so weird here in the States. Half the time I feel like, compared to everyone else, I'm doing so much when it comes to being safe, but then I look at, like, the UK or something like that, and I feel like, maybe I'm not doing enough. And so I've just been trying to balance that, kind of, and now that I'm vaccinated, I'm going to give it the requisite 2 weeks, and hope that, not hope. And then that should be good for me. I'm almost done with this, guys. I'm on the short rows. I'm taking up the short rows. But yeah, that should mean that I'm safe at the very least, with just that, 5% chance or something that I could get COVID. And then we'll just see, I guess. That has been one of the nice things about living in the States, is the vaccine rollout has been pretty good, I think. As long as people want to get the vaccine, which is something that is unfathomable to me. Like, why wouldn't you want it? But I do understand people's hesitancy about it. Especially, I was nervous at first as well that it seemed like it had gone, like, too quickly, but then once you, like, actually look into it and see, how much the scientific community has achieved in the last couple decades when it comes to creating vaccines, it allayed my fears at least, and then I'm hoping that that information will help others as well. Almost done. Okay, that last row is always weird because that's a long tail cast on, and so it just kind of like pulls itself. There we go. It feels like the yarn got a lot more crimpy. Alright, chat, what is the biggest thing that you've ever had to pull out, or the most heartbreaking thing that you have ever had to pull out? Because I would say the Schnee is not actually very high on my list in terms of heartbreaking, because I'm going to cast this baby right back on. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing to fix this. I would say probably the most heartbreaking is what is about to come in my, my no-frills sweater. So we have 3 pairs of socks to take out still, 2 of them with these Afterthought heels, and what remains of my no-frills sweater. So we will do that after a quick break. I'll be right back, guys. Alright, guys. I am back. Did you miss me? So this is my no-frills sweater, as you can see. I just have such a complicated relationship with this sweater that, I don't know. I don't know if I want to just go ahead and straight pull it out, or if because I have to find where the end got woven in the bottom. Let's see. If I can find it easily, I will just pull it out. And if I can't, then you guys are gonna see, we're all gonna see how well my my scissors work. There's no love lost between me and this sweater, let me tell you. It should be, yeah, okay. So the answer is I cannot find it. And I'm not going to fuss myself about it. So, these are probably not the ideal scissors for this, actually. That, again, is the, oh no, apparently that is just a leaf blower. A very, very loud leaf blower that they're using to clean up the wood chips. Hopefully that means that they're done. Because, man, that's annoying. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the camera on this time, but I'll be right back, and I'm gonna get some different scissors. Okay, I'm back. Fabric scissors, baby. This is where it's at. This is gonna make this so much easier. Okay. You'd think I would have to take like a deep breath before cutting into this, but this sweater has caused me so much pain that it bothers me almost not at all to just cut it. It's gonna be a bit messy though. I should probably bring over the trash can, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna do one of these. Just kind of like trying to get this to, let's see. I'm going to turn the volume off on my phone, which I should have done in the first place. Let's see. Can we find, I will just put, there's a blanket down on the couch right here. I will probably just throw that in the wash after I finish with this. Is that an end? It is! Look at that. Okay. Oh, well. It was an end. Oh boy. This will be fun. Let's see how many of those we can pull. That might have been where I wove in the end, actually. That would explain that. Oh no, here we go. This is what is wrong with this. The biggest problem that I have with this sweater is the helical knitting, guys. If you think you might end up having to take the sweater out, I do not recommend. Wait, no, I didn't do helical knitting for the ribbing because it didn't, like, it does not lend itself really to ribbing, because the way you do helical knitting is you do slip, 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 and then, or you slip a few stitches and then carry on, and didn't really work super great during the ribbing when I'm doing knit to purl to. I suppose I could have slipped 2 stitches, and that probably would have been fine. We're gonna do it like this though. There we go, there's a good chunk of it. It's the, like, I don't mind the little fuzzes, but, like, every time I pull out, like, a long one of these, a little part of me is like, oh no, you're wasting yarn. But I'm saving myself a whole lot of headache by having cut it, so it's worth it. There we go. I think we found it. So this one will be interesting to pull out because of that helical knitting, I can put it on the... Oh, do you know what, guys? I probably should have started with the sleeves. Okay. I'm gonna do the sleeves instead. Hi, baby girl. You want on my lap? There we go. I'm going to entertain everybody. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so, well, we've got the end ripped out for that, so I can get started on that whenever I feel like it, but we should probably pull out the sleeves first. Are you going to lay down? Are you going to lay down and make this as difficult for me as possible? Oh, is it not already bad enough that I am having to take out this sweater at all? You don't care, do you? Okay. Well, this one I did find the end for, so I probably should have looked for that end before I went ahead and snipped it. Oh, well. What is this? What is this behaving that's happening right now? Well, that's why I cut it, because quite frankly, this is more pain than it's worth. I have a tendency to over-weave in my ends, the result of which is that it just makes it a huge pain in the butt if I have to undo it, which again is why I usually don't weave in my ends until the very end. It also gives me a good excuse not to weave in my ends until the very end, because people do that all the time just because they're being lazy, but I do it because I'm being practical. Guys, I'm gonna let you, if you want to use that excuse for not weaving in your ends, be my guest. I'm giving that to you guys. That's my gift to you for joining me for this stream. What are you doing? Where are you gonna go? Big jump down. There you go. I'm being a little bit more careful with this because I don't want to accidentally cut the body. Because that... I might have done that already, actually. Anyway. Oh, no, definitely not. And then more of this just, like, plucking out. There was actually, like, honestly, the sound that it makes when I pull out the yarn, or when I cut the yarn, is kind of a fun sound. Like, I know that's blasphemy, but I do kind of like it. Maybe I should get more into sewing, because it makes a similar sound when you cut into fabric, so... My dog left, and she's almost definitely causing trouble. What are you doing? So as you might have been able to tell, my big COVID project was starting this YouTube channel. So did anybody else have a big COVID project, or were you just like, surviving is my COVID project, because it is a huge pain in the butt right now just to exist. I'm not expecting to be able to save these sleeves, actually, because there's so little yarn in these sleeves. I say sleeves. They're like cap sleeves at best. And I've mangled them. I'm just trying to get them out so that I can actually get the body, so that I can actually do the body at least. Just like with the mohair, you save what you can and you get rid of the stuff that's causing you the most problems. Here we go. I will save all of this. I might use it, because that feels really wasteful, so I might put it into, I have little glass Christmas ornaments. I bet it would look really cute if I just put it all into a glass Christmas ornament. Don't you think? There we go. I think that'll just about do it. Maybe a little bit more. Do I have one more? Or is this the edge of my... There we go. One more. Two more. And that, I think that's it. I think then that is one sleeve down. One to go. I'm gonna be a bit more careful with this one so that hopefully I can not save more of the yarn, but I'm a little bit worried that I maybe cut into some of the yarn that was no, that wouldn't make sense. I was gonna say that I maybe cut into some of the yarn that I used that was from the body, which was where you because you put yarn on the holders for the sleeves. Let's see. Tana says, my pandemic project was knitting things. Me too, Tana. Although, I don't know how, Tana is in my knitting club, for anyone watching who doesn't already know. So, I don't know about you, Tana, but I got way more into knitting than I had been before the pandemic. Like, I committed myself to knitting. Like, I was a knitter before, but now I'm a knitter. Do you guys understand? Like, like this is now a major part of my identity. Come on. I'm almost done getting this out. See, this is what's going to be, it was never going to be the chenille, taking out the chenille, that was going to be the hardest thing. It was always going to be these things that I already finished. Just a little bit more. There we go. My husband's COVID or quarantine project has been starting a vintage baseball team, which I'm very, very proud of him for. In particular, it has been getting, or in particular, besides just starting the team, he also decided to make the bats for the team, because in vintage baseball, the bats are not quite the same as in modern baseball. They have more of, whereas like a modern bat will like get to, it tapers at the bottom, but then it like gets to a certain size and then it just stays that size. For the entirety of a vintage bat, it grows. So like, so it's just a small difference, and it like, for most of the teams, it doesn't really matter. Like, they don't actually care whether or not you bring with you a vintage bat. But my husband got into it. He bought a lathe, which now takes up a good chunk of our basement. specifically the chunk of our basement that was like storing things that I just didn't really want to think about, like old paint cans and things like that. So now those things are in the main part of the basement, and I have to look at them every time I walk by to get to our laundry machine or anything like that. So, oh, guys, I wish you could see this. Elena has settled in. Little puppy has settled in. She's behaving herself. Which never happens. Okay, I think that this might be... Oh no. Okay, here we go. I would like to think that once I get this bit done, it'll get easy from here, but I am not convinced about that at all. I think that's it. That's the last of the yarn from the sleeves. Okay. Now we can start on the body. Here we go. I can show you guys again real quick. This sweater is why I needed the wine, guys. Okay. And now I'm covered in fluff. It's fine. That's what the vacuum is for, right, guys? And the laundry. What's up, pup? I'm gonna have to keep an eye on her now, because she might very well just dive in and start eating the little shards that I've got there of yarn. If anybody has like a shawl or anything that they recommend for yarn like this that's micro striping, I would be very pleased, because that is the one thing about this yarn. I have a bunch of it. It's in a million pieces, but there's a lot of it, and so I don't really know what to do with it now that it's not going to be a sweater, because I don't think, with all of everything that I have cut out of it, I don't think that I would have enough to do another sweater, and I don't know if I would want to do another sweater. No. Oh, give me kisses like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything at all. Big yawn. You're in cutie pants, aren't you? Mwah. Oh, Tana says, I recently watched a show on PBS about vintage baseball in Michigan. There are a handful of teams around. There are more than a handful of teams around, actually, believe it or not. I did not know that they did a thing about that on PBS. I will have to let my husband know. We'll have to look it up, because my husband would be super interested in that. But yeah, there's more than a handful of teams, because my husband has, I think, 10 games this year with all different teams. They're mostly on the east coast of Michigan. In like there's one in Bay City, I know. There was one in Stockbridge. That one folded. And then I don't know. There are lots and lots of teams all over the state. They actually have what is it? I think it's like the World Series of vintage baseball or something like that. Essentially. Sorry, just reading comments. So they had at Greenfield Village, which my husband has talked a lot about his dreams of going to Greenfield Village one day, but the team is definitely not at that point. We actually had our very first, I say we, like I'm on the team, but I'm not, obviously. But we had our very first game this past weekend, our home opener, if you will, and the team that was there with us were such good sports, because it was very, very clear that we were inexperienced, because, well, first of all, about half of the team half of my husband's team has never played baseball in their entire lives. It's just this one experience, and that's it. And so the team that we were playing against was the Chelsea Monitors, and the Chelsea Monitors have been playing for about 10 years. So one of the things that's really cool about the sport is that, here we go. One of the things that's really cool about the sport is that it's very, it's known as like a gentleman's sport, where everyone is very like sportsman. Like it's not even really that competitive. It's mostly about just being there for the fun of the game, really. And so I think we have the start of the helical knitting. Here we go, guys. Here's where things get fun. So we have 2 separate strands running through basically the entire rest of the sweater. So this I'm going to set aside as best as I can, and try and not to let it get completely yarn barfy. And then I will try and wind it onto the ball winder as soon as I can. So this is going to be a very stop and go process. There's going to be a moment where I'm just sitting here pulling this out, and then I will wind. And then I will pull this out, and then I will wind. And this is why I have avoided... Actually, let's do it like this. Pull it out on both sides for a little while until this side starts to get yarn barfy. And then I will wind it properly. But yeah, the Chelsea Monitors were incredibly gracious and understanding about the fact that we had basically no experience at all. It was really interesting to watch them play too, because they would, one of the things with vintage baseball is that they don't use mitts, they don't use gloves, you're just barehanded. And so the Chelsea Monitors would they would toss balls to each other, and if they were slightly off, people would reach out and just snatch it out of the air, and that's all it took for them. Whereas people on my husband's team, who were very unfamiliar with having to try and catch baseballs without a glove, you could tell that they were very hesitant. They were a little bit afraid of the ball. Okay, let's do some winding. But just to give you an idea of how relaxed the whole thing is, they got to about the 4th inning, and the Chelsea Monitors were leading our team 22-2. And so just in the middle of the game, they decided that they were going to change the rules up a little bit. So there are 2 ways to play vintage baseball. There are bound and fly rules. I think that's what it is. Or it might be bound and unbound. So fly rules are your typical baseball rules, where if someone hits the ball and you catch it in the air, that's an out. Whereas in bound rules, if the ball bounces on the ground and then you catch it, that is an out. So it makes it a little bit easier because there's no gloves. Catching something that's falling from the sky is gonna hit you a lot harder than something that has already lost some of its velocity by bouncing off the ground. And so they played an inning with bound rules just to see how they liked it. And then by the 5th inning, it was very, very clear that my husband's team was not good at what they were trying to do. And so the Chelsea Monitors, being the incredible sports that they are, I don't know if they approached our team about this or if it was the umpire or what, but they decided to they would do the Senate versus the House. And so they actually mixed teams, and they just did a scrimmage instead of a full game. Yeah, look at that. And so the next several innings, they just played as a mixed team, so that my husband's team basically just so that we could get a bit more experience playing with the people who really knew what they were doing. And one more teeny tiny ball. I would say that that's a cupcake size. It's not quite as big as this one. I would prefer to have this cupcake than this cupcake, personally. Let's see if we can't do some of this one now. I'm playing with fire by letting that just like drop down there. That is how you end up with yarn barf. There we go. While we were at the game, I worked on knitting. That's my favorite. One of my favorite things is because it's such a relaxed atmosphere. I bring my knitting to the game, and I just kind of like glance up every once in a while, see what's going on, and that is completely acceptable, even as the wife of one of the team captains. And it's just such a relaxing day. I highly recommend if you. That you look up to see if there's a vintage baseball team anywhere around where you live, because it's just such a good chill day. That and the people that are on the vintage baseball team will be so excited to see you there. Like, anyone that comes to the games is like family, basically. So highly recommend that. Did I start talking about something else? This is a problem with doing a live stream with just yourself, because I did the times that I have I mentioned that I've streamed on Twitch before, and that was streaming video games with my husband. We would play like Yoshi's Woolly World and Pokemon, just some like chill games, and that was a lot easier because, first of all, my husband was there the whole time. So he and I could riff off each other rather than me just having to come up with things to talk about. And also we were playing a video game. So that gave us a really easy topic to talk about. Like, you basically the whole time just talked about the game if you really couldn't think of anything else. The trouble with that was that my husband can't really play, because my husband works, like, he can only play at certain times. So basically our schedule was like 7 to 10 or 7 to 9, and I get way too tired to do that. I was gonna say that I'm not a night person, but I am not a night person and I'm not a morning person. I tend to get, like, I'm very tired when I wake up and I'm very tired late at night. I'm like an 11 o'clock in the morning person. Like, 11 a.m., that is my peak zone. Like, that is when I'm getting the most stuff done around the house. That is when I am the most productive. That is when my energy level is the highest. Do we have any night owls out there? Any morning people? Morning people I genuinely do not. Like, I wish I could be a morning person because I absolutely love sunrise. There's something about it that is significantly more magical to me than sunset. And it probably has to do with how often I've seen them. Like, I've seen plenty of sunsets, but because because it's hard for me to wake up in the morning, I have seen very few sunrises. And so, getting up early in the morning, especially when it's like summertime and it's like still a little bit cool outside, it's before like the heat really sinks in. That is some of my favorite, that was one of my favorite things to do, if I can get myself to do it, because especially in the summertime it's hard because because the sun rises so early during the summer. But I love to do it. Okay. Let's just do this. Yes. We are down to just our square cape, kind of. There we go. What do you guys think? I could bind it off here, right? I could put all those stitches back on the needles. That makes a cute scarf, doesn't it, guys? Oh. Alright, let's see if we can get some of this wound back up. The sooner that I can get this yarn made into a proper project, rather than, a failed project or just yarn taking up space in my stash, the happier I will be. So hopefully that will be soon, that I'll be able to cast this on. There we go. I have cast on a lot of projects, or I've wound a lot of yarn for projects recently. I have wound yarn for since Taylor's not on, I can talk about this. I've wound yarn for a baby sweater for Taylor's baby that I will be starting soon. I have wound up yarn for hats for my husband and me that are in DK weight. Most of the hats that I have made have been DK weight. I have one that was worsted weight, but I accidentally shrank that one, believe it or not. Like, I feel like the day that I did that, I half expected the knitting police to end up at my door and say, we're revoking your knitting card because you accidentally shrank something in the wash. Which, like, it's understandable if your significant other does it, but as a knitter, you should be better than that. But apparently I'm not. But I shrank my husband's hat. So I'm going to see if I can possibly unwind that and then put it into a scrappy blanket instead, because I definitely don't have the yarn, like the skein of yarn that I used. Well, I don't think I do. I might have it in my, because I intend to start a worsted weight scrappy blanket at some point as well. Just have not quite gotten around to that. Hopefully the socks will come out significantly easier than this is. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with the fact that I did afterthought heels on the two of those socks. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. We're going to find out. I was talking about all the projects that I have started, though. So I've started my falling snow socks. those will, I haven't quite gotten past the cuff yet. There is a part of me that always struggles just a little bit with casting on a pattern sock, even though I love the way that they look at the end, especially, and I especially love designing my own patterns. It is sometimes just a little bit hard for me to get started because there's always that like learning curve where you're still memorizing the pattern, and so you don't quite know, so you actually like have to focus on it while you're doing it. And I just so prefer like not prefer, but I just so love the self-striping socks where it's just knit and knit and knit and knit and knit and knit and knit, and then you do this heel, and then you knit and knit and knit and knit and knit, and then you do the toe, and then you're done. This scarf, or this shawl, does not want to hang out on my neck like it's supposed to. This is, by the way, the dotted wreath shawl by Stephen West. I'm trying to make it catch the light so you can see the whole, like, cause the feature in it is these eyelets, but you can't really see them super well. But the yarn, oh, you can kind of see them. There you go. The yarn is Witch Candy Yarns in the, oh gosh, what's it called? Burning Leaves? Fall Leaves? I don't remember. It's one of her colorways that, like, it is so popular that when I decided that I wanted to when I decided I wanted to buy it, I actually had to like set a timer for her shop update, and I only narrowly got this yarn, even though she had restocked a ton of it. I feel like this one's going to be at least a reasonably sized cake rather than a sad little tiny ball. So that'll be nice. Is this as entertaining as you guys expected? It's not as painful as I expected. Like, it's tedious. But that's part of why I did it on the live stream, is because I wanted a reason to keep going. So we're getting there. It'll be done before you know it. It's just astonishing to me how something that starts as a circle like this becomes a square. Like, if I really sat down and thought about it, because like I do understand how the stitches work and everything, so if I really sat down and considered it, I could probably figure it out and understand it better. But it can just be magic, you know? It's just magic. I love this idea. So my husband and I kind of float this around every once in a while. This idea of like small magics. There we go. And that's the end of this. But this idea of small magics where like everyone has just a little bit of magic in them, and that is their... So, for example, like knitting, even though it is technically like clearly defined, like clearly explainable steps that you take, like you slide a needle into a loop and you pull yarn through that loop and you make another loop, and that is what knitting is. It does feel like there's just a little bit of magic to it, even though you can easily explain it. It's just... You start with a bunch of yarn, or you start with wool if you're a spinner, and you end up making fabric, and you make like things. Like you make shawls and scarves and socks, and it's a little bit magical, guys. I like to think that I am just a little bit magic because I'm able to do this. That being said, I don't think it's the idea of magic where it's like everyone can learn it. It's a kind of magic that everyone can learn. And it's just that some people just don't put in the effort, because it absolutely kills me how often I get people that come up to me and say, oh my gosh, I could never do that when it comes to knitting, because like it always looks more complicated than it actually is. Like, it does take practice to get, like, it takes practice to get really fast at it, and it takes practice to get through it, like it takes practice to, and maybe a little bit like of maybe a mentor or like a commitment to YouTube tutorials to get through some of like the more complicated stitches and things like that, and like to learning how to fix mistakes, and a lot of it takes time and thought, and but it's not like it's impossible for everyone. And so when people say like I could never do that, it doesn't make me feel good about myself. Like, it doesn't make me think like that I'm special in any way. It just makes me like a little bit annoyed. Because I'm like, yes, you could. Trust me. You definitely could. And then if more people thought that they could, and they did, then the knitting wouldn't be seen as such an unusual skill these days. Like, it's not unusual. I've been reading Clara Parks lately, and it's very clear from reading her writing just how widespread knitting really is. But by the way that, like, people react to it sometimes when I'm knitting in public, you would think it was actual witchcraft. Like, or something that is, it's just not as complicated as people want to imagine. I think that what I would like people to say, rather than I could never, would be I would love to. If I had time, I would love to learn to knit. Or if I had the patience, I would love to learn to knit, rather than just I couldn't. Because it's not true. You could. You very well could if you just put in the time and the energy. And that's the case with all things, I suppose. I mean, there is certain aptitude for some things. Like, some people have an aptitude for math that I just do not possess. And some of that has to do with just like the way my brain works. There are some concepts. So, for example, my husband is he majored in economics in college, and economics was the bane of my existence in college. So that is just something that, like, he was really easy. It was easy for him to wrap his mind around the concepts in economics, and for me, it just seemed like it always felt like you were making things that were very straightforward as complicated as possible. So in economics, you have to, like, define everything that happens in the market, and things that just were, like, intuitive, things that were common sense, everything had to have an an explanation and a formula, like a mathematical formula, which was incredibly frustrating. Almost done. It looks like a handkerchief. A handkerchief with a big old hole in it. I should probably wind some of this up before I keep going. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. That's the problem with doing it this way, like pulling it out like this, is you end up with big old knots, or like the yarn sticking to itself. what has everybody been reading lately? You can see my collection of library books that I've had for way too long because physical books are difficult for me to get to. I'm an audiobook reader, for sure. But tell me what you guys are reading. Even if it's just Cosmopolitan magazine. Is that still a thing? I don't actually know. People magazine, that's what I was actually thinking of. Is Cosmopolitan... it's an alcohol, like it's a drink. A mixed drink that you can have. Cosmopolitan is a... it's Cosmo, right? I don't know. As you can tell, I don't read that magazine. I suppose, given that I'm doing a knitting stream, maybe I should have said Vogue Knitting or Interweave. I think Interweave's a magazine. I'm pretty sure it's a publishing company as well, but... This is what we call yarn barf. I'm just trying to be very, like, delicate with it and just kind of, like, pull here and there rather than trying to, like, undo knots or, like, loop things around or anything. Because I find a lot of times when it comes to this, it's just, like, one loop has gotten twisted around another loop. And as long as you don't pull too hard, it's not going to create a knot. But if you start pulling on it too hard, then suddenly you're in for a world of hurt. I know better than this. I know better than to let my pile get as big as it did when it comes to pulling something out like this, because the fact that there are these, like, little... the fact that the yarn is crimpy like this just makes it... it makes it stick to itself all the more. And wool already has a tendency to cling. I'm just gonna check real quick to make sure that the audio is still playing, because I just have it on a playlist and I don't actually know how long the playlist is. Oh, we've got plenty more videos. We're fine, guys. Okay. So wind up what I've got so it doesn't end up getting tangled back up. I don't have to worry about this with the socks because just have to, there's not two strands of it, so this and this, like, I have a big old pile here and another pile, smaller pile here, and those are both going to be a pain in the ass, but it might be okay because I won't be pulling the yarn from under, I'll be pulling it from the very top of it. Not that wine is going to help me get through this at all, but this is what the wine is for. Anybody want to play Cat's Cradle? see, Michaela Hinson says, sending virtual moral support for the yarn bar. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This is precisely what I knew I was going to need the moral support for, because it was just always going to be this, because this has been the bane of my existence since the moment I cast it on, guys. Ugh. It has nothing to do with the yarn itself. Well, it has a little bit to do with the yarn itself, I suppose, because excuse me. Oh man, if you talk for 2 hours straight, you start feeling it. But I wouldn't have, like, if it weren't, like, hand-dyed yarn, I wouldn't have had to do helical knitting, but, like, that's fine, but it just means that makes this that much, more difficult to pull out. Do a little bit more winding. I highly recommend the ball winder, if not the Swift. I say that's like, if not a Swift, then a ball winder, definitely, to any knitters out there who don't already have one. I got this one as a gift, as a Christmas gift, because I put it on my list for Christmas. But it has been easily one of the most useful gifts I've ever gotten. And one of the gifts I was most excited about, genuinely. Like, I think it was the Christmas before I got this, I actually made stockings. Or the year before I got this for Christmas, I made stockings for everyone in my family. And when all that yarn came in, it was in skeins. And it was the first time I was really using yarn that hadn't come... Well, maybe the second time I was using yarn that hadn't just come, like, in one of the skeins from, like, Joanne Fabrics or whatever, you know, like this. I don't know what the difference is in, like, a braid. I suppose it's, no, because a braid is when it's wool still, is when it's the unspun wool, when it's roving. So what is it called when it's in, like, the twist compared to when it's in like this form? I have no idea. I should probably look that up. But it was the first time, when I was knitting those stockings, it was the first time that I had done that, or that I had used that yarn. And so I spent a very long time with my mom, rolling that, or winding that all into balls. My mom would hold it for me, and she'd go back and forth like that. And it was actually, I mean, I don't want to have to do it repeatedly, but it was a really fun time doing that with my mom, because that was when I was still living at home, so it was a very long time ago now. But I was still living at home, and my grandma had passed, and fairly recently, and I found out that my mom had, she used to do that for my grandma. She used to hold the yarn while my grandma wound it into balls, and I didn't know that. That was something that, like, just doesn't come up really, because it's such a small detail, but it's something that now I think about when anytime I do have to do anything by hand, I think, you know, my grandma did this, and that's quite sweet. My grandma was not a knitter. She could knit, but she didn't typically, and so she was a crocheter. She did try and teach me crochet, but I didn't actually properly learn crochet until I joined a knitting club when I was a bit younger. Not the same one that I'm in now, but a different one. Okay, we're getting there. I have hope now. There was a moment where it just kind of all, like, there big bits of it came apart, and I was like, okay, almost there. But yeah, now I make baby blankets inspired by my grandmother, and that are crocheted, but I am still mostly a knitter. I will always be mostly a knitter. There we go. Haha, guys. Yarn barf eradicated. Oh, we got there. Taylor says, all that beautiful yarn in a blob. A hopeful blob. Indeed. That is exactly right. Hello again, by the way. Is baby Gwen back down for a nap, or is your husband taking over? I do not know how much babies sleep when they're just 2 weeks old. I assume it's a lot, because this seems like a lot of effort being a baby. All that growing you have to do. I think it's a skein versus a hank. Says Michaela. Let's see. So which one is which? So is this a skein and the other one is a hank? Or is it the other way around? That seems logical. So this is a, well, I don't know. Because I always call, like, my hand-dyed yarns, like these are still skeins. They might, is this a hank and this is a skein? Or is this a skein and this is a hank? Do we know? Let's see. Oh, and Taylor says, Gwen is with Grandpa, baby sleeps 16 to 20 hours. 16 to 20 hours, that's more than a cat. So, that makes sense though. I mean, babies grow so much so quickly. So, that makes sense. That's why you always have to be careful as a knitter when it comes to sweaters, because if you don't time it right, like if you knit a 3-month sweater and they're born in June, they're never going to use that sweater because they're well grown out of that by the time winter comes around. Again, or so I've heard, because never had a baby. Let's see. See, a skein is an amount of yarn and a hank is a way it's wound. Okay. Okay. I suppose that makes sense. Oh hey, we found another end, guys! I think I can just go now. I think that the rest of this, like the rest of the collar, I'm pretty sure it's all just one, because I did all my I had a bunch of short rows that I did, and I know that I didn't do helical knitting for the short rows. So I think that we're nearly there. Oh! Oh no! We just got a little bit of this left. Okay. Alright. Fair enough. So that's a pretty sizable skein. I'm pretty pleased with that. That is one of the bigger skeins that we have left. Or hanks. Oh. I think skein. That's one of the bigger skeins that we have left. Now where's the end here? I must have gone past it because I've just gone around this thing like twice. There you are. Maybe? Well, we're gonna find it like this then. Haha. Other way around. Stay. There we go. this one probably I should have just done a ball into a ball because there's not a lot there. So it's probably gonna be a mess in the middle when I get to it. If I get to it eventually. Little tiny skein. Okay. Can't celebrate yet, guys. Got a little bit more winding to do, and hopefully this doesn't become yarn barf. Seems to be going well. Don't want to jinx it though. Oh no. Okay. So close. Okay, it doesn't seem to be that bad. It's okay, guys. It's okay. We got this. There we go. There's another one. A little bit bigger this time. And this is the last one. If we get through this one, guys, then we can celebrate. There we go! Oh my gosh. Oh, this took so much longer than the Schnee, but it feels so good to finally have it done. So that's another 5 little yarn balls in addition to the 8 that I already have, but it's done. So we've got this nice little family of yarn balls. We've got Daddy yarn ball, got Grandma yarn ball, Mama yarn ball, and then 2 little kid yarn balls. I should maybe not mess with them because I do not want them to come undone. So they will live now. I cannot stand to put them in my stash just yet because I think, or not just yet, but I think that I would like to just cast these on rather than having to stare at them in my stash. Also, I need to like they're super kinked up, so I need to put these in the I need to steam these. Okay. Woo! So we got the 2 biggest projects done that we needed to do. I had the Schnee and I got out my no frills sweater. And I need more water. So I will be right back. I'm gonna put you guys on VBAC soon. Okay, guys, we're almost done. I have just socks left, which I have to imagine are going to be easier. So, do we start with the socks that are just fully like I just have to pull these out. All of these are toe up, so that will make it at least a little bit easier. I just have to take out the ribbing on the top. These are the only ones that didn't get their afterthought heel. So I think I'm going to save these for last, because that will be such a joy once those are done. So we're going to start with these. And I'm just going to go right ahead and cut off the top of this. And this is all going into the future Christmas ornament stash of yarn, because it's going to there's going to be too many tiny little bits of it for it to be much good as anything else. I do not have the patience to undo my my woven in ends today. Or any day for that matter. I don't know why I'm acting as if like, oh, if I just get into the right mood, then I'll want to undo all of the ends on all of these. No, that's not the case. That's not the case at all. There's going to be an awful lot of cleanup after the stream, but once again, that is for future Emma. And that girl's going to hate me, but I don't really care. There we go. There's one. There's another. And coming undone. It'll be like cabbage in sewing. Just use it to fill stuff. Yeah? Yeah. Past Emma has something to answer for being so dang good at weaving in ends. Like, nobody asked for this. Here we go. And there we go. So that's the top of that one done. I'm gonna switch to this one. And I'm going to do this because the not at all fun part here, you can see me cutting into it. The not at all fun part is the ripping, like the ripping out of this, or trying to find all of the little pieces of this to rip out. So I'm going to do that first for all of these. I don't know what I did with my life before I had fabric scissors, honestly, because these babies are, like, once again, we're gonna go back to this topic, they're like magic, because I've never owned fabric scissors before, or the ones that my mom had were, like, really old, like, steel ones that really desperately needed to be sharpened. And so I never, like, thought much of fabric scissors until I bought my first pair, and, yeah, they're amazing. It's hard not to want to use them on things that aren't fabric, even though I know that that's not good for them. Like, I think that I have used them on some paper crafts, probably, at some point, which is probably not great. But I mean, they weren't that expensive. And I know that it's not a good, like, mentality to have. Like, you should try and keep the things that you own in good condition for as long as you can. And I will do that. I'm definitely going to be better about it going forward, I think. There we go. That's what that is. Alright. Now to pull out a big chunk again. Oh. That must be where I wove in the end. Once again. Why do I have to be so good at that? Or so bad at that, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Because right now, to me, it doesn't seem like I'm good at it at all. It seems like I am a little bit aggressive with the weaving in of ends. Unnecessarily aggressive. Be aggressive. B-E aggressive. B-E-A-G-G-R-E-S-S-R-V-E-B. Aggressive, except when you're weaving in ends. Oh, Elena's laying on the pillow right here, and she is just, like, covered in little flecks of red yarn. It's so cute. Okay, there we go. Oh, I'm gonna have that little sting stuck in my head all night now. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Alrighty. Believe it or not, this is just how I am. Like, I'm not really even feeling the wine anymore, so... Aggressive, be aggressive. I think the first time I heard that was from my mom, and I found out she did it. And I found out that she had been a cheerleader when she was in high school. Or, like, involved in cheer in some way, because, which is shocking to me. Absolutely shocking, because my mother is shy. She's incredibly shy, so the idea of her, like, even knowing a cheer, much less being on, like, a cheer team, is unfathomable to me. Ooh, this one came out a lot better. Maybe I will keep this one. I'm gonna just wind this into a little bit of a ball. Oh. FedEx is outside our front. Our window to the outside is just this way, so I can see that FedEx is outside, and that's never good because that usually involves a lot of dog barking. Definitely gonna have to bring the vacuum in here as soon as I'm done with this. Either that or shut the door and leave it until Monday, which I'm inclined to do. Oh, except that on Sunday we have CBS Sunday Morning that Michael and I watch every week, unless we're, you know, out of town or on a road trip or if we have to go somewhere or something, but otherwise we always watch Sunday Morning, and we do so in this room because this room has so downstairs, where in, like, our main living area, we have a projector screen, which is a whim of my husband's that he had before we even dated. So he has the projector screen. We have the projector screen downstairs, but it is not hooked up to any kind of satellite or anything, and we have an antenna that we hook up to the TV up here. And we did try and hook it up to the projector downstairs, but we never quite got it to function like it's supposed to. And that is the only way that we are able to watch CBS Sunday Morning. Let's see. Shirley, have to go. Catch you next time. Enjoy doing this. Thank you so much, Shirley. I have been enjoying doing this so much. It was a rocky start at first, but I really enjoyed it, and thank you guys so much, everyone who's stuck it out for this, who popped in just in the middle of everyone who's been here since the very moment I finally started the stream up. All that jazz. Thank you guys so much. But it's not over yet. I still have a couple more things to rip out. Just gotta get these socks done. Little teeny tiny ball of yarn. So cute. That might end up going into a Christmas ornament anyway, but I'm going to try and keep it, and we'll see what happens to it. It might end up in my scrappy blanket. There we go. This is sort of like a nice little Friday night knitting club. That is, I say that because the Friday Night Knitting Club is one of my all-time favorite books. It is a story about, it's primarily about Georgia and Dakota, Georgia is a single mother of Dakota, and and she owns a yarn store, and she does designs on commission and things like that. But they start a knitting club, and it's about like some of the women who are like the most regulars in the knitting club. And I will warn you that the ending is a little bit sad if you ever decide to read it, but it is one of my it's not even one of my, it is my all-time favorite book, so highly recommend it. I always have a little bit of trouble. I'm a huge reader and a huge knitter, and I always have a little bit of trouble finding books that I actually really like that that have knitting in them. So the Friday Night Knitting Club is obviously one of them. There's also there are a few others that I've been able to find, but mostly when I like look up like fiction, like books that involve knitting that are fiction, I come up with a lot of those like cozy mystery type books where the everything happens in one like cozy little town. There's a yarn store owner or like a knitter, and she's like the main character. And it's always it's well and good if that's what you're into, like by all means. But I always just have a little bit of trouble getting over the fact that like countless murders take place in this one town. Like it's one thing if it were like Chicago or New York or something, and like there were murders taking place, but like murders happen around these like couple of people like constantly, and it just feels like that is one of the suspension of disbelief that like I am able to suspend my disbelief for a lot of stuff, but for some reason that is not one of them. Okay, I'm gonna pop out of frame for just a second, guys, to grab something. I will be right back. Okay, so we've got the cuffs cut off or unwound for all of these. I'm going to get to it, I guess. I don't know what the gusset, or the gusset, heel flap and gusset is what kind of heel I do now mostly. But this afterthought heel, I assume that it's just gonna straight up cut the yarn, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out together, just like we've been doing all night long. Let's see, I'm gonna see if this will work. If holding it here, it's gonna make this any easier, because it does, so it doesn't catch on anything. Oh, because it catches on itself. The problem is not with it catching on things on my couch, it's with it catching on things in itself. I must, come on, there we go. I must have split the yarn quite frequently when I was knitting this, because that is, which is weird. It must have been I must have been because of the size of needle that I was using, because this is good quality yarn. Come on. I didn't expect it to have this problem, if I'm gonna be honest. Let's get this worked up a little bit. And then we have just this to worry about. Did I just try and break the yarn to see if that would work? Yes, kind of. It's just that there's like... Come on. This is what these delicate scissors are for, right, guys? Let's see. There we go. Okay, so it was just like a little, like, bubble, I don't know. There was just a little bit of yarn that got snagged. There we go. The way and falls right back down. Almost at that heel flap. Keep doing that. There we go. Okay. We're at the afterthought heel. I think I'm just going to have to pull. There's no cutting that's gonna make this work, so I'm gonna have to just pull the yarn, or pull my woven ends out manually. Make it happen. Ah! Okay, well now I've dropped the one thing. I've dropped the one thing that was going to make this somewhat easy. And I really cannot find it. How can I not find this tapestry needle? Where did it go? Do you have it? She's being so good. Look at you, you're all covered in fluff. Okay. Guess we'll use these then. I will have to find that tapestry needle, but it seems like maybe not the thing to do while I'm live streaming. I don't know what came over me, but I just started, I started a bunch of books this week. And I suppose some of it has to do with the fact that what I really, really want to be reading right now is the Night Huntress novels by Janine Frost. I have gotten through, the first 3 of them, plus several of the short stories or novellas. And And so the other books that I have that are currently checked out that I need to get through so that, the checkout doesn't expire before I'm able to finish it, I have just been kind of plodding through almost. I will say each day, okay, you just have to listen to an hour of this one and an hour of this one, and then you can listen to the Night Huntress novels to your heart's content. The trouble is that I've read the Night Huntress novels already. I've read them, honestly, the first 3 probably at least 3 times already. And this would be my 4th. But I just really love them. It's so funny, too, because they are horribly gruesome. I avoid anything that's gruesome or gory, it would, I might experience the symptoms of the goriness. But there's something about the way that it's depicted in these books that I just love. Because I suppose it's because they kind of joke about it almost. Not always, but there's definitely a little bit of that. So in the last book, the main character was this is one thing though, if it's rape, I can't handle even a little bit of it. But if we're talking severe mutilation or potential mutilation, then it's fine, especially because in the Night Huntress novels, any wounds, all wounds can be healed, because either you drink, so in the lore in that series, if you drink vampire blood, it doesn't it doesn't instantly turn you, first of all, into a vampire, but it heals your wounds. And so it's gonna be much more of a pain in the butt than I thought it was going to be, guys. So I know that any damage done, or basically almost any damage done to the main characters in those books is temporary. The psychological damage, not so much necessarily, but everything else. The latest one in the series, the most recent one that I finished, was At Gravesend. And I really like the villain in At Gravesend. She was very compelling and completely insane, which was also good. And I think they got rid of her, they dispatched with her way too fast. I think the author could have really utilized that villain more. But I do understand why she didn't. That being said, she's just generally good at writing villains, because I always, it's not so much that I like the villains, it's that, or even that I understand them or anything like that, it's just that the like the danger and everything that they pose always feels legitimate, even if the characters themselves can't be injured or won't be injured. It's all this end weaving in, guys. Somebody needs to tell me to cool it. I have these scissors right here in my hand, and it's so tempting just to like do a little bit of snipping and calling it a day. But I won't. I'd like to save as much of this yarn as I can. There we go. And then you come out just like that. To get the blue out. Oh boy. Okay. I think we're in business. Yes? No. You're not supposed to be the hard part. I'm supposed to be done with that already. Oh no, I think I know what's going on. Ugh. Because of the way you do an afterthought heel, I'm gonna have to just like one by one pull out each of these stitches. Ugh. Okay. Remember what I just said about trying to save as much of the yarn as I could? Right. Okay. That will be hopefully reused for something. There we go. Back in business? Oh, why? Why do you keep making this difficult for me? Okay, this is an actual knot. What are you doing in my yarn? You were not invited to this party. Yes? Okay. All right. So, I'm going to have to do a magic knot, I think, for this. Or just a regular knot, something, so that I can connect this back up to the rest of the yarn that I used it from. I think that I still have the main cakes that these came from, because I only used about half of each cake because I knit the socks out of two separate. Words are a little bit harder after you've been talking for, 2.5 hours straight, guys. Just so you know. In case you're wondering why I'm struggling just a little bit. But I knit them. I was planning on knitting 2 pairs of them. And I was going to knit the first, and each one was going to be just 1 sock in each color. That would ultimately result in a full skein being used, but there we go. Okay, so I know not to fuss with the afterthought heel quite so much next time. Let's see. I wonder if the magic knot, if it's going to be affected at all by the fact that this yarn is so kinked up already. Apparently not. That was very easy. Alright, let me see. I'm going to make sure the music's still playing. Oh, it is, but it looks like it's almost done. Or it has been... I don't know. We're gonna start this playlist over again. This one, please. Thank you. Okay, here we go. All right. And now we carry on. Come on, man. Don't do this to me. You were supposed to be the easy one. There we go. Oh, let's see. So Brenda is working on her Ladyfinger sweater by Morthander. I do not know that one. I'm not familiar with that pattern. I will have to look it up after the stream. And thank you for the compliment about my hair. So I have been going to a salon every 6 weeks to get it trimmed up. Because I've had a pixie cut before, and basically the #1 takeaway that I had from getting the pixie cut was that it needed to be maintained. Like, you needed to make sure that you were going into a salon really regularly to make sure that you were, like, to get the best look out of your hair. And then we just got a little toe left, guys. Look at that. But it was like costing me a lot of money, and that is money that could be better spent on yarn, guys. So I decided I bought a trimmer, like clippers, and I did my own I trimmed up my own hair for the very first time a few days ago, just on the sides though. Like, I'm very nervous to do the top of my head, because that feels very dangerous. That feels like where things could go deeply wrong. So I'm quite nervous to do that. But I could just like let the top grow out and go to the salon less frequently. But I kind of don't want to go because I don't want my my hairstylist to judge me Because I am quite certain that she would frown upon my clipper cutting my own hair. Because that's generally what stylists do, right? Like, anytime I've ever, like, seen anything on YouTube or anything like that, it's like, hairstylist reacts to self haircuts and, like, all of this, like, and horror stories and like, I don't need that in my life. I don't need that judgment. It means that I also would really like to dye my hair again. I dyed it red a few months ago. So, well, what happened was I got it dyed, well, it was supposed to be silver, but the person that was doing my hair was like, I don't want to say she was inexperienced, because I don't think that's the problem necessarily. She was just kind of not very, like, and it wasn't, it's so complicated to explain, because I don't want to say that she didn't know what she was doing, because I think that she did. I think that she knew that my hair was not going to take the color very well, but she did it anyway. Because I went in and I'd never had my hair dyed before. Like, I've only ever had natural color before. And so I walked in and I said I wanted, like, silver hair or gray hair, and she, like, went into all the reasons, making me feel as stupid as possible as she did it. She went into all the reasons why it would be difficult, and then I said, and so I asked, like, what we could do in the day. So basically why it's so difficult, one of the biggest reasons why it's so difficult to get, like, silver hair is because you don't have, or you have to lighten the hair basically to no color at all, because you need to be starting from a base that will take something as light as silver. And so that involves a lot of bleaching and toning. And if you don't do it right, like, you can destroy your hair, because if you do it, like, too much, like, if you bleach it too much and don't tone it properly, and then the toning keeps it from looking, like, horrendously brassy and all of that. And so she explained to me that it was going to be difficult to achieve. And if she had told me, like, it's not, she could have told me that it's not possible, and I would have been fine with that, and I would have, like, said, okay, what can we do? I would have asked her, what can we do, and we could have gone over the options. But first of all, she did not make an environment in which I felt comfortable talking about, like, expressing what I actually wanted, and then, or, like, where I felt like we could discuss the options of, like, my options. There you are. And so she went ahead and, like, I was at the salon for, like, 6 hours. It was brutal. Like, never again. And my silver hair lasted for all of, like, 2 days, because she told me not to wash it for 2 or 3 days. So I went the max amount of time she told me not to wash it, and then the second I washed it, all of the color washed out. There was, like, a little bit of blue left, because it was like a bluey kind of silver color. And I was just like, okay, I guess that happened. And then, before I got the guts up to go back into the salon, the pandemic started. And all the salons closed and everything, so I couldn't go back in even if I wanted to. And I was also, like, a bit skittish at that point. Oops. Because, I mean, she had been really condescending to me. So I didn't really want to go back in and get it done. And so after, like, a couple months, all of the color was gone. Like, it wasn't just, there wasn't even, like, a silvery tint or a bluey tint left to it. It was all gone. And so I was just bleach blonde from about here to my shoulders. And I decided I am clearly not going to be getting into the salon anytime soon, so I'm just gonna dye it myself. So I dyed it bright red, which was one of my favorite experiences. I absolutely loved my hair bright red. It felt... This is something that I've been coming to terms with my hair, is that, like, what feels like me, what really feels like me, and what feels just like what I'm doing, because that's what, like, society expects. So the long hair was one of those things. I've never had, like, really long hair, because my hair is quite thin, so the longer it gets, the more, like, just straggly it looks. So I went with the pixie cut, and I have felt so much more like me, like what I'm, like, I feel like I look like what I imagine myself to look like in my head now that I have the pixie cut. And when I had the red hair, I felt like I looked more like what I was supposed to look like, or how I imagined myself. And so I would like to dye my hair again. But I have been really nervous to do so, because I don't want to, like, it's very expensive to get it done in the salon, and especially the salon that I go to is incredibly pricey. And I know that that's because, like, they do a good job, and because, like, they're not going to kill your hair the way that you might do to yourself, if you try and do it yourself. But, yeah. So I'm thinking now... It depends on how well I do with my first home clipper cut. So if my first home clipper cut goes really well and I like how it looks, then I will probably just stop going to the salon altogether. But if my clipper cut does not look good, and I can't manage to, and, like, after a couple months of, like, practicing and trying different things, I still can't manage to make it look how I want it to, what I will probably do is I will maintain the sides of my hair with my clippers, so that I just have to go in less frequently, but I will actually just go in, I will just go in, like, every 12 to 16 weeks or something like that, and get it done, and get the top done professionally. I think this is the part where I go ahead and cut off the heel. Let's get some of this out first. Gotta get out those woven ends, those ends that I wove in all too well. Almost done. With this one, at least. I do think it is getting very late, guys, and I have not eaten dinner yet, because I was getting set up when I should have been eating dinner. So I think I'm going to finish this one, and I'm going to do these Christmassy ones, and then we're going to call it a night, and I will just have to, you guys will just have to take my word for it that I do successfully get these taken out as well. But first we have to finish this, which is apparently its own whole thing. Come on. It's these ends that I've woven in. I need to stop being so gosh darn finicky about that. It is such a knot, guys. I don't know if you can see that at all. I can't get any closer to the camera without just completely messing up my setup here. Yes. Nearly there. There we go. Oh boy. Okay, then we're gonna magic loop it. Magic loop. I said that's the second time I've done that. Okay, we're gonna magic knot it. Come here. As soon as these Christmassy ones are appropriately steamed, I'm going to cast them on immediately. I wanted those socks. I wanted them ever since I got that yarn. I love that yarn. I just messed them up, guys. Let's see. Nikisha says, I'm enjoying growing out my gray hair. I started going gray at 12. Oh wow, I just gave up. Did you, wait, you started going gray, like you started getting gray hair at 12? That's crazy. I've heard of people going gray at like 20, like in their 20s, but wow. I am really looking forward to going gray, honestly. Like, I know that seems, it's very, like, I say it's very counterintuitive or unexpected, but it's not that unexpected anymore. Like, my mom's generation, definitely. Everyone, like, my mom dyes her hair. Everyone in my mom's generation feels like going gray is a sign of age. Like, I mean, it is a sign of age, but they say, like, it's a sign of age and that's a bad thing. Like, that's a bad thing. And, I am excited to go gray because I feel like, again, I feel like that will just suit me better. I just feel like I am another toe. I feel like I am an old lady at heart, and so I just would like for my outside, or at the very least my hair, to match how I feel on the inside. Okay, again, skipping these for now. I will do those on my own time. We're gonna get right into it with these Christmassy ones. I mean, they're both Christmassy, I guess, but these in particular. These are Christmassy, but these scream Christmas. The red is darker and the green is darker, which I think is what really does it for it. Oh no. I might have jumped the gun with that yanking out, because that doesn't look pretty at all. I'm trying to hurry because I would like to go and get something to eat. Okay, I'm gonna get this. first, and then I will put it on my little yarn winder. I see. There we go. Haha, okay. Alright, this one should go fairly easily. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is once I get down to the toe, that will have, you know, I'll have wound in those ends excessively, as I always do. And I don't know how that's gonna come out. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out together. Have mentioned it at some point in the podcast, but I can't remember. I definitely haven't mentioned it in the live stream yet, but the reason that I'm so excited for these Christmas socks is because I'm so obsessed with Christmas in general. I am, like, my husband and I got married at Christmas. We had a Christmas themed wedding. We went to, part of the reason we had our wedding when we did was because I wanted to go down to Disney World at Christmas time. It's one of my absolute favorite things is Disney at Christmas. I am a very staunch believer in live Christmas trees. So that's where I'm at with when it comes to Christmas. That's why I'm so excited to get these wound back up so that I can cast them on again. Okay, we're coming up on the toe. Let's see what happens. The verdict is scissors. I'm just gonna cut it off. I'm not even gonna deal with it. There's just a teensy tiny bit of yarn there, and it was not worth it to take it out. All right, one down, one to go. Okay. Has anybody else started planning for Christmas yet? Or whatever holiday you might celebrate? I suppose, I don't know, I have already started planning for Christmas. I know at least one thing that I'm going to be getting my mother-in-law. And I know what I'm going to be getting my dad. So I'm really excited. I also have some knitting plans for Christmas for my family, which will be hopefully, I always have a tendency to like bite off more than I can chew when it comes to gift knitting, and hopefully I don't do that this year. I've already knit everyone in my family slippers, but I wanted to do something else as well. We're trying to be a bit more careful with our when it comes to our money this year, my husband and I. So it just means that Christmas will be just a little bit, like there will just be a couple fewer presents than usual. So usually what I do is I like to get everyone the same amount of presents regardless of the cost. And that's just not that feasible when you're watching money like we are this year. So I'm hoping to kind of supplement that with some hand knits. Although what I'm going to knit for my brother-in-law who lives in Florida, I have no idea. There it is, okay. I've also been in search of a yarn advent calendar because my usual, so I mentioned this in my last episode of the podcast, but my usual advent calendar is the Bumblebee Acres Harry Potter, but they aren't doing that this year. They're just taking a break for 1 year because of the pandemic and everything. But that means that I have to find another advent calendar. And I found a few on Etsy that I'm interested in, and now I just have to save up for them. And basically what I'm doing is I'm saving up for them right now, like any money that I can set aside, I'm setting aside, and I will be putting that money towards an advent calendar, and the ones that I have picked up from, like, I think I have like 4 or 5 saved. And basically, it's just like whatever is left, like, because I expect that some of them will be sold out by the time I actually have enough money saved up, and that will help me make my choice, because I always struggle with like big choices like that. It's not actually a big choice. It's not like buying a new refrigerator or something like that, but you know. Oh. Once it gets down to this toe like this, it doesn't weigh enough to hold itself down, and so it means that I have to hold the actual yarn rather than the. Here we go. All right, so that is it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you everyone who came and joined me for this stream. We have been going for over 3 hours. So I am going to call it a night for tonight. I need to go and get my dinner. I hope that everyone has had a really amazing evening. I hope that you will all come back to this channel in 1 week from today for my episode 6. Actually, that reminds me, I am very close. Let's see if I've gotten there. I'm very close to 200. I'm at 250 subscribers, guys! Which is unfathomable to me. I never expected to be able to grow this quickly. I expected that I would get to 250 subscribers maybe, if I was lucky, in 5 years. And I have been doing this now for a couple of months. So thank you guys so much. It means so much to me. It's genuinely incredible, and I have been having so much fun doing it. And if you liked the live stream, be sure to let me know, because I would love to do these again. Maybe in the future we will do just a sit and knit. Maybe we'll just do like a knitting club kind of thing where I just sit and I'll knit on something, and I'll talk to you guys, and you guys can tell me what's going on with you in the comments and all of that. So please let me know that. So what else? I don't think there's anything else to be said. So just thank you again for joining me. Thank you for helping me get through this. I feel like I have accomplished so much in these 3 hours with how much of this knitting I've gotten undone. I'm going to go put this in the bathroom so that next time someone takes a shower, the steam from that can help to kind of uncrimp some of these fibers. And if that doesn't work, I do have a steamer, but you know, always take the lazy route. But yeah, I will see you guys next time. Good night, guys. Have a good weekend.